Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Feazell, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show, where truth matters. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning at 1 p.m. Central as I get right on with you in the afternoon. You know something? You can find us on the radio at icradio.media, where we are Fox News affiliates. You can also find us on television, channel 182 Charter, and then syndicated on Abundant Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And don't forget the podcast on thenewscasters.com. Continue sending emails. I treasure every single one of them, so continue on. I have a good friend with me right now. His name is Alan Mendenhall, and Alan's, wow, I go to him for advice, money advice. I go with him for all kinds of stuff. Hey, how are you doing, Alan?
I'm great, Donna. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm excited. Election just right around the corner.
I can't believe it. We've got fewer than 50 days. I think we're down to like what? We're still over 40, but we're getting close.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always exciting. I'm going to be out of town on voting day, so I went on ahead and we're doing it mail. I hope I'm not voting Democrat when I do that.
Well, if you're voting mail, you may as well do it 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, might as well. Yeah, get it rocking and rolling the right way. But we are in a topsy-turvy world. It's just all kind of out there. And I know you're always on top of the polls and on top of everything. So how's it going for Trump right now as far as you see it?
Well, as we have discussed many times, there is always a big question mark around the polls. 2016 proved that, where Hillary Clinton went into election day dominating the polls and then lost the very next day. So you have to view the polls with a lot of skepticism. The other thing is most of the polls are polling nationally. So they show Kamala Harris ahead nationally. But really, that's not a poll to pay much attention to, because you need to look at the swing states. There are basically seven states that matter more than the others, in the sense that they are swing states, and that it's important for Trump or Harris to try to get those electoral college votes. And I think right now, Trump and Harris are polling in a dead heat in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is probably the key swing state because it has the most electoral college votes. But Trump is way ahead in states like Georgia, North Carolina, that he lost in 2020, but he's behind in states like Michigan and Wisconsin that he won in 2016. So it really is going to come down to the wire. What you shouldn't listen to right now is the legacy media telling you, oh, Harris is dominating the polls, Harris is going to win this in a landslide. That's just clearly not the case. She is out there campaigning in panic mode. She continues not to hold a press conference, and they are protecting her from scrutiny. And basically, she's got the legacy mainstream media as an extension of her campaign team, trying to propagandize Americans everywhere because people are afraid of Donald Trump.
I still don't think that many people are afraid of Donald Trump. I think it's just something they're throwing out there.
Well, I think so too. And I think this rhetoric about democracy being at stake is irresponsible and, quite frankly, silly. And it's ironic as well, insofar as Kamala Harris is in the position she's in now because of a very anti-democratic process. The Democratic Party, in fact, their whole nominating process already is anti-democratic, but even more so after Biden's dropping out of the race. And there's so many other things that the Democratic Party does that are anti-democratic, if we're going to be honest. I mean, they are opposed to originalism and textualism, which is a judicial hermeneutic that judges use to interpret the law. Well, the reason that that textualism and originalism are important from a democratic standpoint is they confine judges to the text as written, as promulgated at the time of the enactment. So you look at the original public meaning of the words at the time they were issued. Why is that democratic? Well, because when we go through the lawmaking process, we want to have faith that the laws we pass today are going to be honored 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road. We don't want judges to tinker with laws that are purely constitutional. There's no problem constitutionally with them. We don't want them going out and exercising the legislative function, arrogating the power that properly belongs to the legislative branch to themselves in order to make law rather than interpret law. That's a very anti-democratic thing. Judges are typically appointed. Federal judges in particular enjoy lifetime appointments, and we don't want them going in and undoing the laws that were rightfully and properly passed through the legislative process. That's what democracy is. And it's interesting that the left has historically, at least over the last, say, 100 years, promoted an activist judiciary that can meddle with local and state laws. Now we're seeing a change now. We're in a period of shift because of the United States Supreme Court being populated by a strong conservative majority. And now you've got some folks on the left more skeptical of the judiciary than they once were. But in general, you find the Democratic Party promoting policies that are anti-democratic while parroting this line that Trump is somehow a threat to democracy. Makes no sense.
Well, it makes absolutely no sense, but I will tell you this. I think this book should be required reading. Every home in America, even if you're illegal here, you need to read this book. Okay, it's common sense, Thomas Paine. But I wanted this. Okay, so I'm going along with the theory of common sense. Okay, so President Trump was president for 4 years. If he were going to be a dictator, don't you think he would have done that the first 4 years?
Well, the fact that he is under such media scrutiny is evidence enough that he cannot become a dictator. If he were a dictator, he wouldn't be under such scrutiny. In fact, all the major powers in society are arrayed against him. The university systems are all arrayed against him. So you've got higher education. You've got the mainstream legacy media arrayed against him. You've got corporate America arrayed against him. You've got the Democratic Party arrayed against him. You've got blue states against him. I mean, there's just not possible for him to have a dictatorship. And it's so ridiculous to suggest that such rhetoric is completely irresponsible. And by the way, if anybody is acting dictatorially, it is the Biden administration, which is prosecuting regular, ordinary Americans for things that are happening. For example, in January 6th, people that just showed up at the rally are being prosecuted for their very presence. You know, typically when there's a major event like that's controversial, prosecutors go after the people at the top, the people that are the organizers, the people that are the orchestrators, because they want to send a message to those who enjoy influence that you shouldn't exercise your powers irresponsibly. This is very different. This is where they're going after ordinary Americans. Meanwhile, Hunter Biden is still not in prison. Hillary Clinton still never prosecuted. It's a two-tiered justice system. And the reality is the Democratic Party has undermined the rule of law in this country and caused a decline in faith in our institutions.
Absolutely. And then when it comes to voting, I mean, a lot of people still say they're not going to vote this time because they feel like a vote doesn't count. But I'm just going to tell you, if I have to crawl to the polls, I'm voting. I mean, it's still, I can still sleep at night and I can know I did the right thing.
Yeah. I mean, if you vote, you are participating in the process, and there's a lot to be said for that. I think just feeling as though you belong in this civic community is important, and that people who aren't voting will lack that sort of psychic satisfaction that comes with being a participant in the process, even when your candidate loses.
Well, I will have to tell you this. We have a trip. We're not going to be here in this area on election day. So we're doing mail-in, and I'm just hoping that it doesn't turn into voting for Kamala.
Yeah, I know.
I hope not.
Well, and if you look at the efforts of other foreign governments to maintain election integrity and secure the purity of their electoral process, you'll see many of them, especially European countries, are much stricter than we are about their election process. I mean, I think it would be great to go in and require retina scans before you vote. Or I still think, and obviously this has been deemed unconstitutional, but I still think it's perfectly fine to require some sort of civic test that you have to pass a test in order to vote. No problems there for me. If that process disproportionately impacts a particular community, well, then that probably means that particular community ought to do a lot more work to become informed. That's not a knock on the test. It's a knock on the community.
Well, in order to drive, you have to take a driving test, or you should
exactly
take a driving test. And
in
now,
order
my
to practice law, you got to pass a bar exam. In order to be a doctor, you've got to pass, your boards. You got to go through medical school. Everything else, But for some reason, we're very lax on citizenship, and it's important to be a citizen. A citizen is a concept that is loaded. It's a concept that was important to the ancients, the Greeks, and the Romans. Remember Paul? It was a big deal that Paul was a Roman citizen, and there are not just rights, civic and political rights that come with citizenship, but also duties and responsibilities. There are burdens. You don't just get to take; you have to give when it comes to civic participation.
Well, it causes the whole country to go into decline if you're not putting in what everybody else and you're only taking out. That's just not right. My daughter-in-law is from Russia. And so to become an American citizen, she was telling me about all the hurdles she had to jump back in the 1990s. She had a lot of hurdles to jump,
Yeah.
And it was just incredible. But I'll promise you, she knows more about American history than most Americans do. Than most people born in the country.
And that's exactly right. There are many immigrants contributing incredibly to our society, and we benefit from the value they add every day, from the cultural diversity they bring, from their backgrounds and perspectives, and they are very constructive members of the community. And it's unfair to them for immigrants and criminals and terrorists to be just ushered into our country without proper vetting, without proper security measures. That's just not how a country operates.
Absolutely. One more question before we go into break. And
Sure.
This is a hot topic. Will there be a debate between Trump and Harris?
I don't think there will be. I think since Trump declined the CNN's offer, which I think is wise, because CNN is, why would it? CNN's just an adjunct of the Democratic Party, and the Clinton News Network is what they used to call it in the 90s. But in the last debate, it was very clear that it was 3 against 1, and the moderators, again, in pure propaganda, would fact check Trump, incorrectly fact check him, by the way, on occasions, and not even bother to try to fact check Harris, who also lied.
Absolutely. Let's cut into a commercial break. We'll be right back in just a few minutes. Let's talk about the city council, your local city council. And we'll be right back. Queen City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant.
Are you ready?
We all wonder what tomorrow will bring. But the future lays itself at the feet of the prepared and surrenders to the will of the persistent. It's not easy, but today shapes you so you can shape tomorrow. With Northeast Alabama Community College, when the future asks if you're ready, you can answer.
Yes.
Begin your future at Northeast Alabama Community College.
We're back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show, where truth matters. I'm here with Alan Mendenhall, who always speaks the truth. I'll just tell you, if I ask Alan right now, does this outfit make me look fat? I'm pretty sure he would say yes.
No, the answer is no.
We love the truth. I'm just telling you, Trump has never offended me. I mean, it's been refreshing to hear someone who is actually holding some sort of an office whatsoever telling you the truth. I think it's just absolutely fascinating that someone thinks, well, I don't care if I make the whole United States mad, I'm speaking the truth.
Well, and that's one interesting point, is that, sometimes Trump speaks using hyperbole and it's an exaggeration, and the fact checkers will go in and say, well, this isn't blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, duh, of course he didn't mean that, whatever the hyperbole is, he's exaggerating to make a point. Like, he doesn't literally mean that. And if you don't see that that's what he's doing, then you're a ridiculous person. So it's one of those things you've heard people say, well, don't take him literally, but take him seriously. You see Democrats say that thing all the time. Yeah. But I think that is accurate, that, he doesn't always speak literally. And the Democrats act like this is some kind of fact check thing. Well, if you look back to ancient mythology, the whole point of mythology is to convey a truth through a fictional or a fantastic story that is so the truth is too complex to be conveyed literally. So you create a story that conveys the truth so that people can understand what the truth is through the story, and the story is just the vehicle. And that's a very common rhetorical thing. It's ancient, and the sort of bean counters and the silly people in the legacy media, they know what Trump is doing when he's speaking figuratively, and yet they hold him to some literal standard because they want to be able to say Trump lied.
Yeah. That's their whole thing, draining our minds. But I wanted to mention this to you. Linda Hansen was a campaign manager for Herman Cain, and she's a regular on the show. And so she was actually we were taping a show the evening before the presidential debate. But in her interview, she told me they were having to relocate because she was talking about the folks who were coming in illegally who will eat your animals. And she said that it's like a religious thing for them. She mentioned that before Trump did. And it totally makes sense. But I wanted to mention this about the city council. Okay, so there was a city council meeting in Albertville, Alabama, being overrun by illegals coming in, and they're causing havoc now in this small town. As a matter of fact, the high schools, very few, they're being overrun in the high schools. They're having to bring people in who can speak for the Haitian people, and all of, it's just it's a mess. And so anyway, they have a city council meeting, and so someone brought up the fact that we want to keep our land. There needs to be something done about this overrun of illegals coming in to that small town, very small town. And so someone spouted, who was in the city council, said, well, now what would Jesus do? Jesus loved everybody. And I just have to tell you what my response would have been to that. Had I been at that meeting, and I'm planning on going to the one here in my town, the first time someone mentions Jesus, I'm going to hold my hand up. And very nicely, I'm going to say, so it's okay now to mention Jesus? Because, we've been trying not to offend anybody. So now it's okay to mention Jesus, right? Because you want to, I'm not trusting city council members. You have to follow the money on this stuff. Number of them are in real estate. The mayor is in real estate there in that little town. Makes you wonder.
Yeah, well, and there are clear distinctions between one-on-one interactions between one human and another human, and governmental policies that are actually designed to harm the immigrants they purport to help. So, you can institute laws, rules, policies, regulations that do a lot of harm to people. And that's certainly not a Christian approach. And, that is actually like trying to pull the rhetorical Trump card, pulling the Jesus card. And quite frankly, Jesus's context was quite different when he spoke and taught and preached. In terms of governmental structures, he was living during the time of the Roman Empire, and we don't have an empire right now. We have a very different form of government. Of course, Jesus's teachings are perennial; they transcend time and place. But for a mayor to make such a sort of preposterous statement is unbecoming of the office. Now, it is true that municipalities are cities, they're corporations, they're corporate entities, so they're different from a state or even a county. But there are limited things that they can do to regulate immigration, because that's really the province of the federal government, and entities like ICE and Department of Homeland Security and Customs and Border Protection. Those are the entities that are supposed to regulate immigration. But you'll find that municipalities that do try to insert themselves into the immigration are typically the sanctuary city types. And what they'll do is they'll try to institute rules that favor non-cooperation with ICE or the federal government. And, they'll issue municipal ID cards, or they'll try to create some sort of welcoming environment for immigrants coming in. The particular phenomenon you're referring to, I still think we need to do a lot of research into this, because it is quite possible, and I don't know this, it might not be the case, but it's quite possible that this is some sort of Democratic-led retaliation, weaponizing the federal government, but retaliation against Republican governors who are shipping illegal immigrants up to Democratic states, right? Remember, DeSantis would send them up to New York and to nice communities up north, and those communities basically freaked out, and they were appalled, and they were angry that these immigrants would be shipping from red states. Texas also did this up to blue states. And then the red state governors were like, well, look, why is it okay here? Why do we have to bear the burden? And that's the other thing about about the mass immigration issue is it does create a significant drain on resources. I don't know that it's Christian to bankrupt a city or something like that. Is that Christian? Is it Christian to drain scarce resources? And these aren't, migration's a tough issue. It's a perennial issue. It has always been with us.
Question. Is it Christian to have 10 families living in one house?
Yeah, well, I don't think that the phenomenon itself is Christian or unchristian. If people are voluntarily doing it, for whatever reason, then, but that's fine. But if they're having to do it because there's no other way, because they would have been better off in some other position, but they're being forced to be in the city that they don't actually want to be in, but they're just pawns of some political process. They're just useful for some political narrative for other people. Well, that seems to be quite wrong. I'm not sure these Haitian immigrants, I don't know who they are. I don't know what they're like. But I doubt that they're very happy to be in the position that they're in. They're probably in very confusing circumstances. And I'm sure they don't enjoy being part of a political narrative. They didn't ask for that. So, it's highly problematic. If you look at European nations and their immigration laws, they're fairly strict, most of them. I used to live in Japan. Japan's immigration laws are very strict. And, that's the prerogative of a civil society. That's one thing, is when you enter into civil society, you agree to become a participant in the rules. And
but this is the thing, Alan. It would appear to me that if you're a city council member, aren't you elected to actually help the citizens of your town? Or if you're
you are. Now there's an important distinction too to bring up, which is that there are two types of city government. One is the mayor council system, and one is the council manager system. And in the council manager system, the city council enjoys a lot more power because they appoint a city manager who basically works at the discretion of the city council. He works for the city council. He's the chief executive officer, but can be easily fired by the council. But under the mayor system, there's a strong mayor system, a weak mayor system. But under a strong mayor system, the mayor is basically like a governor or the president of the city, as it were, and exercises a lot of power. Under the weak mayor council, the mayor is much more of a ceremonial figure. It's more of a titular job. He does ribbon cutting, those types of things. But the council has a lot of say. But so if you're under a strong mayor system, there's less you can do as a city as a city council member than there is under either a weak mayor council system or a council manager system. Certainly under council manager system, which is what you see in most big cities, it's a big deal to be on the city council, and you do have a lot of authority, and you're doing things like not just decision making that affects everyday lives. You're passing budgets, you're dealing with waste management, you're doing city planning, you're trying to attract jobs and businesses, and you're doing all that economic development work. You're making sure that the trash trucks are picking up trash on time. There's a lot that goes on, and that is a high responsibility system. But it doesn't negate the fact that under the Constitution, the federal government has the duty and the job to establish rules regarding naturalization, and that involves immigration. So the city can't do anything about that, but the city can do things to try to figure out how we can manage a sudden influx of immigrants who have come pretty much unexpectedly.
It's been an influx. I'm just telling Alan, we've got to call it a day. Man, we don't have enough time.
No, I know this is a fast.
Seeing you a little bit later. And also, thank you so much for watching. You're the reason we do all of this. I hope you have a super duper awesome blessed day today. And Alan, I hope you do too. You take care.
Thank you.